I want to thank you for taking the time to check out my videos. I'm always looking for new topics, so if you have any to share or any comments, please leave them down below. I know there's a lot of talk out there about COVID-19 and about exposures and things like this, but if you're someone who is taking care of somebody or providing support to someone, here's why you need to be especially conscious of the fact of your exposures and how that might impact somebody that you love. A lot of talk has been talking about people who have COVID-19 and they're symptomatic, but it's not the symptomatic people that are problematic, it's the asymptomatic people. And what happens is that if you're in a position of a caregiver, and you may not even realize you're in a position of a caregiver, you may be in a position where someone comes to you who is in a bad health situation or a compromised situation or a bad financial situation where they need your assistance, and you exposing yourself to others and not having the symptoms puts you in a position to expose them. And the way that typically may happen is this way. If you're a source of that person's transportation, imagine a situation where you know somebody and mass transit is not always available, they don't have money for mass transit, or it's difficult to get to places without a car. You might be the person that they call upon to take them to doctor's appointments, to take them to the grocery store, to take them to Walmart. So when you go out and you expose yourself in areas like bars and clubs and things like that, and thinking, oh, I don't have any problems, and then you go and that person needs you and you expose them to you, you may not have symptoms, but you may have passed the virus on to them, and they had no involvement in all the places that you went to that allowed yourself to be exposed. But because you're transporting them, now you're exposing them. And how many of you have found yourself extending your home to loved ones? I mean, the person may have been foreclosed on, they may have been evicted, they may not have the money to be able to afford to stay in a house or apartment. Heck, they may be trying to stay in a hotel. Maybe shelters aren't available and you're their last resort. So guess what happens? When they come into your home or to your apartment and you're allowing them to stay with you for a period of time, again, you're still falling into that same pattern. You're exposing them to whatever you've been exposed to when they come into the house. Now you're going to say, well, what about them? It's the same way for them too. That's true. But this is why both sides are important. The person who's coming into your home may be taking whatever steps they can to minimize their exposure. You need to do the same thing because you're both coming in from environments where neither side can account for everybody that they've been exposed to, but you don't want to increase it by going to places where your exposure level is higher, and then when they come to your home, you exposing them. And also, if you're providing some type of in-kind support, and you're thinking, what do you mean by in-kind support? It's the same type of relay. If you're going to pick up groceries for somebody, you still got to bring that to that person's home. Let's say you're going to pick up their children. Same thing, same exposure. Let's assume that you're going to run errands for that person and you're coming back to that person. Still exposure. It's important to understand that when you're going out and about doing all these things, if you are aggressively diligent in protecting yourself in certain situations, but then you're lax in others, you don't really balance that out accordingly. So at some point you may put yourself in a position where you may expose yourself, and then when you're going out to support someone, whether it be going to pick up groceries, going to pick up their kids, going to pick up their medicines or something like that, guess what ends up happening? You end up exposing them to whatever exposures you've been exposed to. And even though you may be asymptomatic, you may pass that virus on to them, which may cause them to become symptomatic. We are all interconnected in this world in ways we never really think about. So it's important that when you're looking at your circumstances to not discount those situations where you may find yourself being a carrier inadvertently and putting those people you love at risk due to your practices and the way you conduct yourself out and about.